What's going on, guys? I thought I would do a video of this. I just got my new rod and reel, and I'm actually going to prep the reel to spool, and then I'm going to spool the braid onto the reel. And this is only my second time spooling a reel myself. So this video might be not that great, but I'm just going to kind of show you the process of what I did last time, and we'll just see how it goes. Trust me, there are much better videos on YouTube that you guys can watch for spooling reels and knot tutorials and stuff like that. But I kind of just thought I would make a video just because I'm a total beginner, and I mean, I've been fishing for a long time, but I'm just getting back into it. I'm just buying some new gear, and I usually always just had someone spool the line for me or have a store do it, but I started doing everything myself, so I kind of wanted to just show you my process and the way I did my last one, and it turned out pretty good. I went bass fishing this weekend, and on my new medium power 7'1" 13 fishing oath with the PC Fun Carbon X2. So the rod and reel I'm going to be spooling today is the Bass Pro Panfish Elite and the Shimano Nexave 1000 reel. So, and I'm not doing a mono backing, so I'm just going to show you how I prep the reel, and we're going to get to spooling. So first things first, I'm going to use the electrical tape method. So some of the stuff I have here is I have my braid, I have my clippers, that's my fluorocarbon, that'll come in later, and then I just have a damp washcloth and a spool of electrical tape. So what we're going to do first is I'm going to just remove the spool on this reel by loosening the drag. You don't have to do this, but I just think it makes things a little bit easier. So that spool just pops right off. Tighten that down just so it's not falling off all the way. Or just set that aside there for a second. Okay, so what I'm going to have to do with my electrical tape, like you can see, it's too wide for the spool. So I'm going to have to cut it down a little bit. And that's why I have these nifty little folding scissors. Okay, so we're going to pull off some electrical tape. Yeah, and this might not be a great video, but kind of just bear with me, and I might run into some hang-ups around the here and there, but I'll try my best. So, all right, we're going to spool off a decent amount of this electrical tape because we're just going to do one wrap around the reel, so that should be plenty there. I take my little scissors, we're going to cut our tape, and like I said, I kind of just eyeball it here how much I'm going to need to take off, and this can be kind of tricky, so I kind of just mark where I need to cut this. It's right about there. So then I'm just going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut this long ways. This line doesn't have to be this cut doesn't have to be perfectly straight. You just want it to go nicely on the reel. This can be kind of tricky, but we're getting there. And again, you can always just do mono backing. I know a lot of people do that. I wanted a full spool of braid. So this is the method I'm going with. And the last reel I spooled was braid ready. So it had the little teeth gnarled into the spool. So, and this one does not. So I definitely need to make sure this electrical tape goes on and I have a really tight knot just so I don't get any just so my braid doesn't slip on the spool. Okay, so like I said, that doesn't have to be perfect. You just want to take your spool now and kind of line up your electrical tape, and we want to go really tightly around the spool as best you can. It doesn't have to be perfect. Let's see where we're at here. Right about there. Okay, so now we're going to cut this extra off. We're going to lay that down. Sorry, I'm not really keeping it in focus here. And I'm just going to run my fingernail along the inside here just to make sure it's stuck on there really good. And the electrical tape is just going to give the braid something to bite into because it's really slick. So, okay. So now the next step, get rid of the electrical tape. I'm going to take my braid and I'm going to kind of show you the knot that I used the first time. It's just a simple uni knot. So I'm going to take my braid here and I'm going to go through the first eye of the rod. Just makes things a little bit easier. So you can see I went through the first eye here. There's my spool. Here's my braid. I'm going to just pull a good amount of braid off. I got 300 yards, so I should definitely have plenty with some left over. Okay, so now what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to double over. I know this is probably really hard to see, but I'm going to double over my braid, and I'm going to give myself a decent loop here. And then I'm going to start my uni knot, and you'll see kind of where we go from there. So you want to make sure you have a decent tag end and a decent loop here. I'm actually going to pull off a little bit more. So there's my big loop. And then I'm going to pinch this down right around there. And then I've got my tag end. I'm going to do uni knot. So you take your tag end and you're going to make a number 6. You see that? So here's my main line, here's my tag end, and I just flipped and folded my tag end over and pinched that in between my fingers here to make a number 6. I know it's really hard to see. Like I said, there's much better knot tutorials and spooling materials on YouTube, but so if you want to do it there, check them out. Okay, so now that I have my number 6, I'm going to take my tag end and I'm going to wrap it through the loop down here about 7 times. So there's 1, and I'm always so bad with this, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6, and 7. Okay, so now I'm going to pull this. I can let go here. I'm going to pull my tag end and just let that knot do its thing. Pull it tight. You don't have to super cinch it right here. So now the knot's in place. And what I'm going to do with my loop now is I'm going to take my loop and I'm just going to do a figure 8 with it and fold it into itself, kind of. And see how I made I turned it into a double loop. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my spool, I'm going to make sure both of those loops get around the spool, and I'm going to pull my main line, and I'm going to, you can see the knot gets closer and closer and closer. And then when you get almost to your spool here, I have the main line in my hand, I'm going to pinch, and you can see the two loops on there and then the knot. And you can see how the knot is right about to the spool. Now I'm going to put both my fingers, and I'm going to pinch the sides of the spool, and I'm going to get a good grip on my main line here, and I'm going to just tighten it down by moving this hand back and forth like this and pulling on the main line. And we're going to do that until it's really tight on the spool. And you can see if I pull this side to side, that knot is not going anywhere. It's not slipping on that spool at all. Okay. So, and then whenever you're spooling line, you want to make sure, most of the time, label up on your spool instead of label down. But the main thing you want to make sure is that your line is coming off your spool in a clockwise direction. So we're all set there. So now I'm going to get my spool back on to the reel. Come on now. Okay, so that's pressed down. Now I'm going to take my drag knob. Get that nice and tight. All right, so now I actually could have done this when the spool was off, but I'm going to give that knot one more cinch, and I'm going to take my little nippers here, and I'm going to clip my tag end. Make sure you clip your tag end, not your main line. I've done that before too, when tying hooks and stuff. So you want to get as close as you can here. And braid can sometimes be tricky to cut, so just do the best you can here. All right, so that should be good. You can see that braid is not going anywhere. Okay, so now, oh, and I should have also said, make sure your bail is open. Flip your bail open. Otherwise, you'll start spooling and you won't be able to get any line on it, and you'll have to take the drag off and the spool off again. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, my line is through the first eye. It's going down to my spool that is coming off in a counterclockwise direction off the spool. Ooh, let's try to not hit the tip of my rod on the door. I'm going to zoom out here a little bit. Okay, so now you're going to want to make sure your spool is kind of in line with that first eye. Just so the eye is up here and the spool is almost directly below it. And you want to get your rod in a nice, secure position, about 45 degrees up from the floor. And your bail is open. So now we are going to close our bail. And what we're going to do is make sure you can pull your main line, and make sure that you always have tension on this. Let's go up a little bit here. So you always want to pull and keep tension on this line going onto your reel, because you want a really nice tight spool. So I'm just going to put the line in between my fingers for now, and we're just going to do where I'm going to pull that as tight as I can, and we're just going to start reeling, and we're going to do a few turns, and make sure you keep tension on that line. And we're going to go nice and slow here. for the start of it. And we're going to do just a few slow wraps just to get it going. And that spool keeps getting stuck. Okay. Okay, so now we got a decent amount of line on there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the damp washcloth, or you could use a paper towel, or you could even tape up your fingers with electrical tape or like athletic tape or something. But just something to keep tension on the line and so you don't get burned. So I'm going to pinch the line in between the damp washcloth. Make sure you have tension on that line, much tension as you can get on there. And so you're going to pull that tight, and we're just going to start cranking this on. Keep tension on that line. Make sure that's really nice and tight. Okay, let's see where we're at. We still got a little ways to go to fill up that spool. You can see there's a little tiny gap there. We can still get some more line on this. Your just biggest thing is make sure you have that tension on that line. Going on nice and tight. Okay, let's give it a look now. We're almost there. Can fit a little bit more on still. Keep tension up on that line. All right, we're gonna do a few more wraps and then we're done. Okay. You can see our spool is filled. Okay, so now we can set it down. We can take our tension off the line. Pull it tight. We're going to wrap our spool back up, because now what we're going to do is I am going to cut this line right about here, and we're going to tie on, or I'll give myself a little bit more room just so we can do our knots. I'll probably cut it at the first eye, and then we'll tie on our fluorocarbon. So let's do that. Go right in here. Braid can be really tricky to cut. There we go. Okay, so now we're going to make sure our spool stays nice and spooled. There we go. Put our little sticker over that. And snip this off. go. All right, we're done with our braid. I could probably spool another reel with that. So save that braid. Okay, so now I'm going to get ready to do the fluorocarbon. I'm going to cut the video here, and then I'll come back when I'm doing my line to line, and I'll show you how I do my leader. All right, I'll be right back.